Every empire promises that its money is permanent. Every government insists that its system is unshakable. And almost every time, history proves them wrong. From Rome to France, from Civil War America to modern Lebanon, people have woken to find their savings worthless, their wages meaningless, their futures stolen by the very institutions they trusted. Collapse isn't rare. Collapse is the rule. The real question has never been if financial systems fail. The question is how you protect yourself when they do. We stare at our bank balances and think they are solid. We see printed money and think it is real wealth. We hear central bankers promise stability and assume it will last. But money isn't bedrock. It's trust. And trust can vanish in a single season of war, panic, or bad policy. That is why history feels so brutal and why it is so useful. Every collapse leaves a trail of lessons about what protects wealth and what evaporates into dust. The survivors of every disaster were not the ones who trusted most. They were the ones who saw fragility before the crowd did. Centuries after Rome's fall, its eastern heir, the Byzantine Empire, built its power on the gold solidus, a coin so reliable that merchants from the Mediterranean to the Silk Road accepted it without question. For hundreds of years, it served as the world's closest thing to a reserve currency. But trust invites temptation. Emperors at war clipped its gold, stretched it thinner, mixed in cheaper alloys. At first, no one noticed. Then, confidence cracked. The coin that had anchored Mediterranean trade became just another political promise. As the solidus lost credibility, the Byzantine economy lost stability. Who survived? Not the officials printing decrees, not citizens who held only coins. It was the merchants who quietly hoarded real gold, farmland, and goods that the state could not counterfeit. The first lesson is timeless. Governments cannot resist diluting their money, and when they do, value escapes into the things they cannot fake. Not every collapse begins with rulers' greed. Some come like a bolt of lightning. In 1347, the Black Death swept across Europe. It killed as many as half of the population. Cities emptied, villages vanished, trade routes broke down. The tragedy reshaped the economy. Labor became scarce and therefore precious. Survivors could demand higher wages. Land and homes, once expensive, became cheap because there were fewer people to claim them. Families with liquidity, silver, goods, even just their own skills, were able to buy land and rise. Those without reserves were crushed by both the disease and the aftermath. History rhymed again during COVID. Supply chains broke, governments printed trillions. Those with cash and credit bought homes, stocks, and businesses. Millions living paycheck to paycheck fell behind. Pandemics don't just kill, they redistribute wealth. Crises reward those with reserves and punish those without them. In the 14th century, Florence was Europe's financial center. The banking houses of the Bardi and Peruzzi funded kings and merchants across the continent. Depositors believed their size guaranteed safety. Then, England's King Edward III defaulted on massive loans. The Florentine banks collapsed. Trade froze. Ordinary savers lost everything. The myth of too big to fail died centuries before Lehman Brothers. Those who endured were the ones who had diversified their wealth early, who did not entrust everything to institutions chasing profit. Lesson: an institution's promise lasts only until the day it doesn't. After World War I, Germany was saddled with crushing reparations.
The government's solution was the oldest in the book: print more money. At first, it seemed to work. Then, inflation sped up. By 1923, it became hyperinflation. Workers were paid twice a day so they could spend wages before prices doubled. People burned banknotes for heat because they were cheaper than firewood. Pensions, savings, and insurance policies were obliterated. Who survived? Those who held land, gold, hard goods, anything real. Weimar's deeper lesson: when money dies, trust dies with it, and recovering that trust can take generations. During the U.S. Civil War, both sides discovered that modern warfare demanded more money than taxes could supply. The Union issued greenbacks, paper money backed not by gold, but by the promise of the government. At first, it felt bold and patriotic, but as the presses ran, the currency weakened. The Confederacy printed even more. By 1865, its paper was so debased that soldiers' pay could not buy bread. Families who relied on cash were ruined. Those with land, crops, or goods to trade survived, and sometimes prospered, buying assets at fire sale prices. The U.S. has already lived through a currency collapse. Protection came not from patriotic paper, but from holding real value. In the 1790s, revolutionaries overthrew the monarchy and seized church lands. To find the new republic, they issued the assignat, a paper currency supposedly backed by that confiscated property. It began as a symbol of progress. Soon, the government printed recklessly. Prices soared. Bread riots returned. The currency collapsed. Once again, those who held food, silver, or land endured. Those who held patriotic paper were ruined. In 1997, Thailand's currency collapsed. Because its debts were in US dollars, repayment became impossible overnight. The panic spread to Indonesia, Malaysia, South Korea. Jobs vanished, savings evaporated. Mortgages doubled in cost. The survivors were the ones who had assets in stronger currencies or abroad. The old rule was confirmed yet again. Debt in someone else's money is a trap. When the storm comes, the debtor drowns first. Between 2019 and 2021, Lebanon's trusted banks did the unthinkable. They locked their doors. Deposits were frozen. Withdrawals restricted. The national currency lost over 90% of its value. Middle-class families, retirees, even professionals found themselves impoverished overnight. The lesson was brutal. Your money in a bank is not a treasure chest. It is a loan you have given the bank, and in crisis, it may never be repaid. Those who endured had kept gold, property, cash abroad, or reserves outside the banking system. Everyone else was trapped. In 2008, millions of Americans lost homes and pensions, while the banks that caused the crisis were rescued. In 2020, governments printed trillions to fight the pandemic. Asset prices for the wealthy soared, while wages for ordinary workers stagnated. In 2023, regional U.S. banks collapsed almost overnight, reminding everyone that too big to fail is a comforting story until the doors slam shut. Looking back across 2,000 years of disasters, the pattern is unmistakable. Rome, Byzantium, Weimar, money debased by rulers. Black Death, COVID, shocks that shifted wealth to those with reserves. Florence, Lebanon, 2008, faith in institutions betrayed.
Civil War America, Revolutionary France, patriotic paper turned to dust. Asia's crisis, debt in foreign currency as a trap. The chorus is the same. Survival belongs to those who hold what cannot be printed away, frozen by decree, or inflated into nothing. Collapse is tragedy for the unprepared, but it is also opportunity for the prepared. When paper dies, real assets change hands at fire sale prices. History shows that wealth is not only about what you own, it is also about what you can do. The farmer who can produce food, the craftsman who can repair tools, the merchant who can move goods, the doctor who can heal when systems crumble. When money loses meaning, production never does. Those who can meet real needs are never poor for long. True protection lies in a mix of tangible assets and tangible skills. Every crisis is a transfer, from savers to builders, from paper to reality, from those who believed in promises to those who prepared for collapse. The question is never if the system will crack. It always does. The question is, when the day comes, will you be left holding promises or holding something real? History doesn't repeat exactly, but if you ignore its patterns, it will crush you just the same. If this gave you a new way to see the past and the future, pay attention. History has the warnings. The future will test them. Be among the few who learn before the crowd does. If you want to understand the next collapse before it happens, don't just watch history. Learn from it. Subscribe and stay with us as we dig into the patterns behind every crisis, past and present. Because the next shift in money and power won't wait for anyone to catch up.